Martin will be performing in the gallery, along with Alex Halstead and David Morey. Opening for them, I've been told, is the Green Pasture Happiness. That concert starts at 6, fairly promptly. Then on Thursday, we have Hot Media, which is a series of presentations and screenings curated by students here at our illustrious institution. And we will have presentations by Rebecca Beachy and Tiffany Funk, Rachel Lynn Stein, Brittany Ransom, Krista Donner, and Andrew Yang, as well as screenings of works by William Wegman, Corey Archangel, etc. Should also mention that with the David Morey, Alex Halstead exhibition we have in the gallery, other events will be on November 3rd, a sort of presentation demonstration with Michael Esposito, who works in electronic voice phenomena along with Alex Halstead. And then on November 18th, yes, we will have a curated exhibition of film and video works by Ben Russell called the Hydroacoustic Works Pending. Some confirmed, some pending. Then also as events, we have another Talking a Cure event on November 10th. That will be hosted by myself, Lorelei Stewart, and Tony Tassett again. And the topic this time is artists working inside or outside institutions. What's the difference? I've got an answer. You've probably got better answers. So please come and share them. And he doesn't really want to be introduced, so I'll just say without further ado, Martin Schmidt, and he's brought lots of sources, lots of materials, and so it's going to be a bit of a show and tell in a true old-fashioned sense. So please welcome Martin Schmidt.
Hi. Yeah, I figured, those of you who read the video thing that says, the advertisement out front that says I'm going to talk about musique concrète, I'm only going to talk about musique concrète in terms of me and my work, or me and my partner's work as Mammoth, which is to say that I'm going to talk about my own. It's going to be an artist's talk. When I was asked what I was going to do by this esteemed gentleman, I was like, I don't know, a talk, musique concrète. So I mean, I'll definitely touch on that a little, but yeah. On that note, does everyone know what that means? Have you all heard that term before, musique concrète? Let's see hands if you're like yeah. Like, oh, okay. So I'll give a brief précis there that in the and anybody who knows better than I do, because I'm not an academic, and I would encourage anyone to correct me if I say things that aren't true, because I fucking hate that. Seeing some person in a tie sitting in front of a group of people telling lies, that's not good. So correct me if I'm wrong. In the 50s in France, understandably there was a sort of enmity for things that were German. Having recently had a war where they were taken over by Germans, you can imagine people had a sore spot about Germanness, and culturally this was felt as well. And people felt as if there needed to be a new kind of music that wasn't German. And there was a gentleman called Pierre Schaeffer who had this idea of creating a new music that was about, to put it briefly, that was about timbre, that wasn't about pitch, that wasn't about do, re, mi, it wasn't about arranging notes, but it was about sounds, and taking sounds from the world and arranging those into compositions. I don't understand his theoretical work all that well, but wow, he has a lot of crazy notions about what that meant, and some very intense rules, which I think are pretty far off the mark for making interesting music about it. One of the things that he felt was that the sounds should never be explained, and they should be so removed from their context as to be unrecognizable as the sounds they were. So if you were going to make a piece using train sounds, it should be so far abstracted from trains that no one knew they were trains, which to me is like what? It doesn't make much sense. I met my partner Drew in a bar in 1992, and he was dancing on the bar wearing nothing but a fish, a rubber fish, not a real fish. And I thought, wow, he's hot, and I want to talk to him. And a friend of mine sitting next to me, standing next to me, ogling Drew, said, you know, he makes electronic music. And I was like, and this is not the kind of thing you think about someone who's dancing on the bar wearing nothing, like, oh, he has an intellectual life. For some reason, that's at least not what comes to my mind first, usually, or then anyway. And so I was like, as a chat up line, I was like, oh, you make electronic music. And we got into this conversation about Pierre Henry, who was a student of Pierre Schaeffer's, another early French musique concrète guy. Schaeffer, in terms of those of you who are actually writing things down, his work is not as interesting as Pierre Henry's, though he is definitely the sort of foundational figure in this whole thing. These guys started in the music world, I don't know, anybody here from the academic side of music, like in music school? Anybody? Nobody, wow. Even to this day, like if you're from the visual arts or that sort of end of things, it's hard to imagine the strength of what used to be called, or still called, the Academy. In the world of music, the Academy is still a pretty strong thing. You know, tradition, like you have to learn your instrument, you have to know the history of this stuff, you have to learn by, you have to learn by sight all these like classical pieces. You basically have to like, bite, chew, and swallow the old world of art making. Whereas in the visual arts world, you kind of don't have to do that anymore. I mean, they don't actually force you to draw like, draw pictures like Rembrandt anymore before you're allowed to blow farts of paint onto a canvas anymore. Whereas the world of music is still in this academic stuck in this academic structure more. And you can imagine in the 1950s, even more still. And so when Pierre Schaeffer was trying to get this movement going, there was a great deal of resistance, and it seemed like a lot of theorizing was necessary to convince the Academy that there was really something to these ideas. Oh God, where am I going with this? And he started it, and anyway, to make a long story short, he was fairly successful in convincing the French government, the French Academy, that there was something to these ideas. So they started this institution called the GRM, which is, it's like the Research into Music Foundation, and it's a subsidiary of Radio France. And it still exists today. It's sort of hard to imagine from an American perspective that there was like an experimental music foundation completely funded by the government, absolutely supported, and is still supported to this day, with the goal of creating a new kind of music that is not made out of pitches, but made out of sounds. And this formed the core of the conversation that me and this hot boy at this bar had. And I was like, wow, not only is he hot, not only does he make electronic music, but he's interested in the sort of academic aspect of this music, and that is even hotter. And in fact, it turned out he was much, much smarter than I was, and certainly is to this day. He's a professor at Johns Hopkins University, and that's why we get me instead of him right now, because he's busy. So He was also he went to like I say, he went to Oxford and was familiar with another kind of music that I was unfamiliar with at the time, which was techno and drum and bass. Like my sort of, and which you probably all sort of familiar with now. In the United States in 1992, unless you were like pretty serious music nerd, it was pretty obscure stuff, at least at the level that the British get into it. And he introduced me to all this crazy new stuff, and my chat up line was, have you ever edited music on a computer? Because in 1992, this was actually an exotic, incredibly expensive thing to do. This thing, you know, this now a ubiquitous object was, well, they didn't exist yet, largely. I guess laptops, did they? 92? Like, pretty much no. I had a huge tower that had 4 megabytes of RAM, I think, or something. It was cost me $4,000, you know. It was this incredible, so this was hot. And he was like, yeah, I'd really like to come over and edit sound. And sure enough, here we are, 18 years later or something like that, still together and making stuff together. And so because of this initial conversation that we had about musique concrète, this became the sort of like foundation of what we started to do together, was make music out of the sounds of objects. And we weren't particularly interested in being like super purists, you know, like Schaefferites or you know, no, I wouldn't. We wanted to make like, you know, techno, and we wanted to make musique concrète. So here's a piece that's made out of something I had around in my house, which was an electric guitar. But I don't play guitar, so sample the sounds it made one little bit at a time, arrange them in time, sort of like mosaic. Short phrases from the guitar sampled into a keyboard. I don't know, you know, like I know some people are like, yeah, I know how a sampler works, and then other people, it's obscure, so I'll talk about these things a little bit. Tiny phrases of sound can be recorded into a keyboard that you then hold down the keys and they go badak, 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 and you can go up and down the keyboard, maybe, babak, 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 and with a computer sequencer, you can sort of make like a player piano thing where it's like diduk, diduk, buguk, buguk, diduk, diduk, and then it does it by itself thanks to the computer, and you can build up layers of these little short phrases of sound. This is, of course, you know, you hear we're using but we also wanted to work with, oh, now I've put the CD out. I worked at an art school. I worked at the San Francisco Art Institute. I was the video checkout guy in the new genres department, which is their sort of conceptual art department, or you probably even know what that means, probably. So I had access to a bunch of equipment. Sweet, I was the checkout guy, so I could get it at any time. So we had some nice microphones, portable DAT machine, and we would go on little sound safaris where we would go out with our portable DAT machine and our stereo microphone and record various things. We were in the Exploratorium, which is a sort of children's science museum in San Francisco, which is rad, and you should head down there if you're ever in San Francisco. And they happen to have a display there of a vivisected crayfish nerve tissue. And in the display, it amplified this crayfish nerve tissue, which is to say you would press a button and it would go, The science of this, I don't know, but we were like, that's fucking rad. We recorded it with our little recorder. We took it home. We made a bass line out of it, and we made this song out of it and a bunch of other sounds. Than the song, we wrote in the press release that we had recorded an amplified crayfish nerve tissue. And this acted very magically on people's imaginations. Somehow, suddenly, electronics and the body were connected, the nervous system, the people's brains, and hearing, and sound, and the nervous system, and suddenly, like, the nervous system of a crayfish was amplified and made into techno music, and oh my God, that's amazing. And in 1993, or whenever that was, 95, that was really good, because there was a lot of interest in techno. Computers were, like, entering people's lives by the they were just flooding around people, and people really wanted a way to connect to electronics and make electronics part of their personal experience. And somehow that song and the idea of crayfish nerve tissue sampled and made into a techno song was really magical for people, and magically a bunch of articles were written about us. It was awesome. It felt really, really good. And we thought, wow, people really like this idea of music made out of, and once again, this great idea that Pierre Schaeffer had of making music out of sounds rather than where the pitches are the most important thing, it really acted on our best behalf as well. So we made a whole album that's all that all uses this conceptual restriction thing, where, like, okay, we're just gonna make a song now, not out of anything and the crayfish nerve tissue, but in fact just the crayfish nerve tissue, or in this case not crayfish nerve tissue at all, but balloons. What were the other things? We made a whole song just out of the Sonata, which is already a song or a poem. Do you know that Kurt Schwitter's piece, the Sonata? So Schwitters is walking down the street. Correct me if I'm telling this wrong, because I kind of make shit up as I go along sometimes if I can't remember. Schwitters is walking down the street, or walking around somewhere, and goes into a print shop, and there's all these blocks of type sitting in the print shop, and he goes, ooh, there's a poem. It goes fa-tang, fa-tang, blop, 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 and makes the Sonata out of it, out of the blocks of type. And so we thought we would make something out of Eberhard Bloom's reading of the Sonata, which I'm not going to play, and we weren't allowed to put it on the eventual CD that came out on Matador because we were afraid that people would sue us. Okay, here's one made all out of body sounds. So everything here is sourced from including necessary poo and pee sounds. Yep, all the sounds, all made out of the human body. Yep, and it went well for us, and more articles were written, and that was all great. Apparently this record was purchased by pop star Bjork. And we brought, this is a cute story of like, sometimes it actually works out like a crazy Cinderella story where we brought 5 of these CDs into a record store in London. We're like, will you buy some of these CDs from us and have them in your store? It was rough trade in London. And they were like, yeah, mate, we'll take 3 of those. And they bought 3 of them, and the guy in the store listened to it and was like, oh, I guess I really like that. And then Bjork comes in, and she has a friend there who recommends records to her because she buys a zillion records. And he's like, oh, I think you'd like this one. And she bought it and really, really liked it, and apparently just bored the crap out of everyone she knew. Like, oh my God, you have to hear this great CD. Because when we finally got together with them, her personal assistant was like, oh, you're those guys. Like, yeah, we've heard your record a lot of times, which was, very flattering and stuff. She liked that it was funny and had this sort of conceptual backing, and she really has this thing where she believes that boys, it's incredibly sexist, that boys make beats. And, since I've just given a whole thing about like, we don't make pitches are not the most important thing, maybe there is something to that, but they make beats. Not all about pitches. I think if a man said something about women, yeah, women do this. That's just, that's naturally what they do. People would get mad about that. So while we were working with her, and I'll play you a little bit of that, we made another conceptual restriction record where we decided to do all medical sounds. We recorded a bunch of crazy, gross stuff. Liposuction surgeries. What else did we do? A LASIK surgery, an eye surgery. I had a friend who was a student acupuncturist then, and he had this amazing device that allows you to cheat in finding acupuncture points, and also seems to prove fairly conclusively that there's definitely something going on with acupuncture, because this thing is a device that measures the ability of your skin to conduct electricity with a buzzer. You hold one end of it, one end of the circuit, there's a buzzer in the middle, and there's the other end of the circuits on another little wand thing, and you can, while you're holding this thing, you run the other thing over the other end of the circuit over your body, and where your skin is more, you adjust its sensitivity, and where your skin is more conductive, it buzzes. And it just so happens that your skin is more conductive exactly at all those points that the acupuncturists came up with 2,000 years ago. It matches up exactly, and we thought, ooh, that's gold right there. And it made a crazy, irritating noise, and so that's always good to make a song out of. And so this is all made out of the buzzing sound of the acupuncture. So here's one. Well, maybe I'll just listen to this and tell me what you think this is made out of. Think about So it's made out of a rat cage, and it's the first bit is you can hear it clearly when it's plucked, but that's drawing a violin bow across the bars of the rat cage, and then sampling it to the keyboard and playing an idiotic 4 or 5 chord pattern with it. But it's a single draw of the bow that causes all these harmonics to come out of different bars. And out of that single bar, that's where all the different variations. It kind of sounds like early, medieval music or something. I feel like that. That's pretty far along in the story, but when we first started doing this stuff, people started asking us like, oh, so, as they do when you make music, like, when are you going to play? And we were faced with this question of like, well, what the hell will you do when you play? Because, this is music you make on a computer, and you've all seen this now, but in the early 90s, this was the thing, like, really, we're going to watch a show like this? personally, I find this despicable. Like, I have no desire to go into a rock club and stand up and watch someone operate a computer. Fortunately, we had a ready out of this because all our pieces were made out of these objects. And so we thought, like, oh, we'll play the object, Drew will sample the object, I'll play, he'll play, it'll show, like, oh, that sound is made out of this red. And somehow that will excuse the idea of of at least one of us standing with a laptop on stage. I mean, it's an interesting question, like, why is it interesting to watch someone do this? And not interesting to watch someone do this, but it isn't. And so I came up with this idea also to make things even more interesting, and especially for pieces that where we couldn't bring the object in, you can't bring the surgery into, though it certainly crossed my mind to do some kind of minor surgery live and amplify it, but who is it, Orlon? You know who Orlon is? Yeah, she does it. That's stick-to-itiveness, live surgery. But I didn't do that. We didn't do that. So I came up with the idea of using brilliant videos. Also, if those of you who make artwork, you probably have figured out by this point, it's really all about problem solving, like, got this problem, this is how I solve it, got this problem, this is how I solve it, and this ends up being, 90% of the work. Problem, I'm playing in a shitty rock club, and as soon as you get quiet at all, people turn away and go, oh, anyway, blah, 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 blah. But solution, you've all been in sports bars, right? Or just bars where there's TVs on, and you've been sitting across from someone who's like trying to talk to you, but and you're like, what? And you look over your shoulder, and there's a TV set. So I thought, magically, if we put a TV set behind us, people would pay more attention to us, and it worked like a charm. Okay, where's full screen? Window. Oh, nice, thank you. F? Thank you. Marks off for the first one. So anyway, so this was Drew's father is a plastic surgeon. Where did those plastic surgery recordings come from? Not from him. But he has access, a lot of surgery, microsurgery is done now using something called an endoscope, which is a tiny, tiny little video camera that's at the end of a stainless steel tube that has a cluster of fiber optic lights around it. The entire thing ends up being, like 3 millimeters across. And so now, instead of doing surgeries where they cut, a huge slot open in you and spread it open and, start mucking around with their hands, now they can make tiny little incisions in you and shove cameras in, and make other tiny little incisions and shove their instruments in, so surgeries aren't these huge traumatic things. And I was like, damn, we got to get that camera and stick it up our nose, because it'll make a great video. Can you turn the lights all the way down? Boogers. Actually, I think that might be a mix of nose and mouth. Yeah, that's my tongue. I assume they cleaned it because if, then, okay, you can turn the lights up again if you don't mind. Just a little bit. Because then there's the other problem of, anybody ever see The Books, that band? So tell me if you had this experience. Their video is so good, you might as well be watching a DVD at home. Like, you never even bother to look at them. Like, their video is like amazing, like fascinating, quick cutting, like, whoa, wow, cool, cool. I swear to God, I saw The Books, I never looked at the band. Like, it was sort of ridiculous. It was like, well, if I'm just gonna watch TV, I might as well be at home, like on my couch or whatever, and not paying $20 to, and $6 for a beer. That's just my hand. And that's twisting the camera out of my fist and then reversed and dissolved into itself over and over. Eardrum? That's my ear, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, it's Drew's ear. He's got all that foul earwax. His outrageous. Yeah, that's fascinating, Martin. Yeah, yeah, nose looks pretty, like, sweet and clean compared to that, doesn't it? Anyway, boring now. Sorry. Where was I? Okay, so this was right around the same time as we were doing the Bjork thing. In fact, when that record was released was while we were on tour with the Bjork. So that was very convenient promotional opportunity. And here, I'll show you some of that. And it's a world of slickness in comparison to a camera stuck in my nose. Anybody have any questions? I'm just going like time narrative wise, which is a little boring. I realize. No? Okay. Yes. I mean, as far as like sticking things into orifices in your body, it's very small. Like I say, it was literally only that big. But yeah, sticking anything like that, because I was like, I will stick this in my nose until I feel like there is danger. And the doctor was there too, but he wasn't Apple F, thank you. But he didn't actually operate it. He was too spazzy, I thought. He didn't actually shoot interesting video. Because, obviously his take on the whole thing was very different from, like, I'm trying to make an interesting psychedelic video, and he's like, well, yeah, you just do, here it is, there it is. It's like, no, you gotta, go into it slowly. But yes, in the long run, yes. Okay, so let's see, what were so the Bjork thing, I had 8 million crazy ideas for what I wanted to do. And the fact is that when you're working with a huge rock star, attention doesn't want to be taken away from the huge rock star. So Martin's crazy ideas of like, yeah, we should have and then there'll be, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, mate. It's about Bjork, mate. You guys sit over there and make your little fucking music, and let's not have any trouble from you. But I managed to get some things in there, like the cat box. There's a song she made that's where the rhythm is made out of snow from. Fake. Real. Slightly out.
Don't think about cat box.
The glacier head. I'm looking hard for moments of shame from twilight to twilight. Sparkle and intention suggest you shade. I tumble down on my knees. I fill my mouth with snow. The way it melts, I wish to melt into
Pretty large audience for, considering it's all the beats and stuff were made out of ice cracking, snow, ice-related stuff. But pretty high profile considering what we're doing, what the sound is. And a choir and an orchestra. Those are Inuits. No, she's from Iceland. Yeah, she had this kooky idea to get a Greenlandic choir. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stories. There's a lot of odd stuff going on there. She has a lot of crazy ideas, and she's got the horsepower to carry them through. It's cool. So yeah, there's that. So on a completely other tip. So we make a lot of our music because we're not musicians, and we don't want things to be canned. Like the Bjork thing, necessarily you're playing along with an orchestra. We're not musicians, which is to say I lack the ability to count. Not count 1, 2, 3, 4, but count in a musical way and bars and remember what comes next and what comes next. I sniffed glue, I smoked so much weed, I just can't remember these fucking things. So I am pretty much reliant on improvisation musically myself, and computers. So for the Bjork stuff, where there was no improvisation, was not an option, 0, right? F, god damn it. You see? You see? Object lesson right there. So the way we get around the idea of playing canned stuff live is to make whatever this long story is short, is we improvise a lot. So here we are doing an entirely improvised thing at the San Francisco Art Institute.
Or don't.
Could you turn it up, because this is super quiet in this
Don't
league.
cluster all up the back again. That was retarded.
So these are from the cafe for those of you who eat here regularly. I just got them out of the kitchen. So tomorrow you may be eating lunch out of this. Clearly everyone who eats here is outside still. my God, I'm kind of torturing this out. Okay, so we made a bunch. Oh, I mean, I don't want to just say like, yeah, we made a bunch more albums. But that's kind of what we did. Let's see. On the conceptual tip, we made another record that was all about people, where we took a list of our favorite authors and we made songs about them using things from their lives. Made a song about Patricia Highsmith, the mystery novelist. She was in love with snails. She had snails as pets. We made a song with snails, where we put snails in a glass tube and then had lasers going through the glass tube that were not lasers. They were lasers, you're right. And they were light-sensitive theremins that we had. These devices that the brighter the light gets, the higher the pitch of the sound, and then the snails rose up trying to get out of the tube naturally. But then the amazing thing was, when they hit the lasers and the different light beams that we had in this thing, they stopped and played the lights with their eye stalks, which we did not anticipate. We thought, like, we'll put the snails in, the snails will move, they'll do the thing, and we'll get to say the snails played it. But they stopped and played them. Like, they stopped in the, and you know, obviously, I mean, like, probably they're just like, what is this light here? What is this light over here? But I swear to God, there are all these snails stopped right in the field of the musicality, stopped in the musicality field, going, and like pulling their eye stalks in. We were like, sometimes these things work out really, really amazingly well. And sometimes they don't, and that's why it's experimental. Yeah. Let's see. Here, I'll show you a music video that I made. Anybody know who Norman McLaren is? Canadian animator? Fabulous? No? For those of you who don't, he was a Canadian animator who hand drew on film, primarily. He did a bunch of, I mean, he had a 40-year career. He made animations a lot of different ways. I think that some of the most significant stuff was that he drew directly on film. He did, I'll just show some Norman McLaren. Why talk about it? So, on film, how to make this brief. There is something called an optical soundtrack on film, which is to say they figured out, would you get out? They figured out a way to make amounts of, anybody want to help me out here? How the, right, light and not light, you can record sound, like excellent sounding sound on film using different amounts of light. He had the ingenious idea, like, if I paint directly on the film, I can make direct film compositions by painting. I can make music by painting lines on the film, and he developed it to an amazing degree. Go, Daddy. Yep, we're gonna do it. Wait. So, what? There aren't any options. Oh, click the lock to, thank you. Just call that shit out, because, oh, nice. Oh, this is great. Live password entry. So, yeah, do it. Have I learned anything? Yes. All made by painting. All made by painting on the film soundtrack. That. Yeah, if you watch enough Canadian films, you actually learn French. Oh. dead. You don't have to clap. And so it will be for you and I. Very lucky people to watch it. Yeah, I don't know. So I'll show the last piece that I made video-wise, and then call it quits, unless anybody else has anything to ask or wants to know about what we do, I do. Anybody? Nothing really? Huh? Uh-huh. Yes. Well, they're an odd one because, they relate directly back to what I was talking about with academic musicians. Like, this was also true for, like, we played with the Kronos Quartet. Them a more extreme example in that they absolutely refused to improvise. Just flat out wouldn't do it. Where so percussion, they were young, they came to us and were like, what shall we? We'll just do whatever you want, Mathis, which was amazing and flattering thing. And and soon into our relationship, this issue came up where we were like, and then you guys do something. And they were like, what do we do? Like, make something up in there. Like, well, man, make something up. Well, that's not what we do. We read things off of scores and do it perfectly and interpret it within a certain, range in there. And so that took some doing. There are rock bands that we played with. Typically, this was an entirely new idea too. And Rachel we played with, and boy, they took to it well. Rachel's was like, yeah, this is fun. And they went fucking crazy every time, we played together, and it came to the improv part of the show. But what do you mean, like how do we collaborate with them? Yeah, it's odd. Yeah, definitely. We've had to come to them, and they've had to come to us. I'm afraid they've had to come to us a lot more than. I think this is the way they think about it. We say, oh, we have a sort of Latin number. It's sort of Latin-y. Maybe you can play like Latin stuff in there, and then they draw from their huge repertoire of traditional Latin percussion sort of patches, if you will, that are built into their, from learning Latin music, and they plug them into this thing, and voila, they're perfect and beautiful, and yet they're improvising because they get to decide where, they stop playing the clave pattern or when they play the bongos and so definitely they're learning something from us. I wish I could say we were learning something from them. I mean, maybe through it. But yeah, I just don't, man, I'm like sort of like an idiot child. They're like, you play the water, Martin. You just play whenever you want. It's so sad, but so true. By the end of the Bjork thing, I had actually learned the songs and I knew when to come in, and actually we hung ourselves a little bit because we had programmed it so hardcore that by the end of a year tour, we were like, kill me now, because we had programmed it too much, and we were just sitting there, like, yep, this is the part where I go, Merle. And then it plays, and then there's the part where I go, sitting there, where the first show that we played, I was like, fuck, here comes the part where I go, where? So, yeah, like it was just, I don't know, just, so working on pieces and so on, this was composing in the studio was sort of a new thing to them, where we're in the recording studio, haven't learned this age-old, this centuries-old method of doing things, you end up doing things on the computer and then reproducing the things that you made on the computer, and the computer is sort of like a giant rolling player piano version of what you're doing, and relearning from there. I mean, I wonder a lot about like noise music, and why it's so popular now, and why there's a sort of lack of interest in learning things the old way. I'm not building to a thesis here, but there's something funny going on. Please pick me up.
But
Yeah.
maybe it's a different, but I'm curious, talk about noise music and improvised music and electronics, like at what point being able to make music, maybe the wrong word,
Right.
sound compositions out of everything becomes a pretty
Oh, you mean the sort of blank page phenomenon?
yeah, and also, I think about it in relation not just to music, but in relation to sort of contemporary art is possibly like now, where this is you can make really great compositions out of light assumptions. You can make really great compositions. So,
Well, it's the great is the part. It's the
so
part. That's the hard part.
But how do you determine that if you're operating outside of both an academic structure or sort of outside?
Yeah, again,
outside of
it becomes pop music, and which is to say you are defined by the marketplace. Like, if people like it and they buy it, which of course increasingly is another thing that's completely disappearing, making the whole world even more structureless, that there isn't even that voting system, of the dollar voting system. Like, this must be good music because this many people bought this many CDs. Now it's like downloading, like how do you even count that, and then the pieces of art reproduce them, they reproduce, and, like, I don't know how many people have heard the music that I made. Like, when I ego surf on the internet, like, oh look, I found another blog where they're giving away this entire album for free. How many hundreds of people downloaded it? I know how many CDs sold because there's accountants who count it. So, it's,
So how do you guys, how did the two of you figure out sort of like what to make? And
whether a
it's-
song is
whether
good
it's
or
good.
whether Drew's bass line is good. Yeah, this is the invisible stuff of art. Like, yeah, I just know.
Does that critique of noise music, or half critique of noise music apply to what you guys are?
Oh, I wasn't critiquing it at all. I've heard great noise music, and I've heard, granted, I've probably heard much more bad. I've heard much more bad music of any kind than I've heard good. But, yeah, how do you decide? I don't know. I've listened to a lot of records. I guess I compare them to all the records that I've heard and which ones give me pleasure. And, yeah, that's a sort of like bottomless question of why we like what we like. My father was a huge opera fan, and I grew up listening to opera, sort of whether I liked it or not. I didn't like, oh, play Die Fledermaus again, Dad. I just heard it. And it's definitely affected me, like why I make long form. So much of our stuff are like these, and increasingly over time, like we make 20-minute songs, and I realize like these 20-minute songs I enjoy because of opera sides, record sides that I listen to. Like, I like long form compositions. I wasn't raised on 3-minute pop tunes where other people, but you get where I'm going. Like, it's sort of like, why do I like what I like with my parents? The drummer I fell in love with in high school, like, he liked Lou Reed, so I decided I liked Lou Reed too, and that's, I just built on that and did my Lou. Yes.
You guys look alike now. What conceptual restraints
album is all about psychic phenomena. We take turns being in charge of the albums, and this one's a Drew one. Drew knows the idea for the new record. He will not tell anyone, including me. We have done many, many sessions with individual people where they lay down in the dark in a room with a video camera on them, wearing white goggles and listening to white noise. It's borrowed from the Ganzfeld psychic experiments of the 60s and 70s. Ganzfeld total field, where the goggles and the white noise are a sensory stimulus reduction thing. Like you don't see anything, you don't hear anything. The idea being that your extrasensory perception is then strengthened by the fact that you're not distracted by any of your traditional senses. Drew sits in another room and sends the idea for the record psychically. They report what they receive psychically by speaking it out loud. We watch the videotapes of what they see or what they report, and we transcribe those, and we will make the songs out of what they see and or hear and or see. That's the new record.
Great.
Yeah. The last one was mine, Supreme Balloon, and here was my difficult, complicated idea. I was like, let's do all synthesizers. Yeah, and you got stuck with me, folks. And that was surely long enough, right? I mean, how long have I been talking here? Like an hour and a half, right? That's a long damn time. Yeah, an hour and a half. That's way you guys have been extremely patient, and I appreciate you coming by. Tomorrow, I'll do what I do much better, which is, I think, extemporaneous sound art with
Alex Halstead,
in fish tank. Three, six, two bands. If you want to talk about anything, you're welcome to stay longer. I'm happy to talk until my throat goes out. But I am the torture of us all sitting together. It should probably end now. Or I can go.